I literally just did a post where a mom was saying, my husband is an idiot. She made a whole vent about it. Well, the same woman made a post the day before saying, am I the a-hole for telling my husband I don't want him playing video games anymore when watching the kids? At some point, these women are going to choose their kids over these negligent husbands. She's 30, he's 33. She says, I and my husband have two kids, and one is 3 and one is 10 months. I'm currently the sole breadwinner, and he is a stay-at-home parent. We agreed on this arrangement beforehand, so that's not an issue. The issue is that every time I get home from my 10-plus-hour shifts, our 3-year-old has gotten into something or done something she isn't supposed to, or just not listening in general. I mean, she is only 3, and my husband is constantly yelling at her for it. But she does it because he isn't paying attention to her, or the baby at home, or the baby at all, because he is playing video games. Today, for example, she got up into a chair and got on my very fragile teapot and all of my expensive tea flowers, the kind that bloom in the pot, and unwrapped all 8 of them. She also got my rings and put them in a shared toy box so that the baby can get in, major choking hazard, got into the Christmas photos and lost her first Santa pictures, and got her crayons and drew all over the kitchen table. I pulled up and she was crying because she got yelled at again for messing around in the swing chair we have in the garage. She was being very unsafe with it, so I can understand her getting in trouble for it, but she wasn't in trouble for anything she did inside because he didn't even know she had done any of it. He then started yelling at her for all the things she did inside, and she started crying harder. So I sent her upstairs, and after she closed the door, I asked him what he was doing while she was getting into everything. Because this wasn't a left her for 5 minutes thing. This took her a long time to do. He tried telling me she was only up there when she was eating lunch and he was doing the dishes while she was at the table. I asked him if he was actually in there with her and how did he not see her move the chair, stand on it, get everything down and unwrap it all, get back up there, grab my rings, and then put them in the toy box and colored on the table. He got defensive and angry with me and asked me what I wanted him to do. I told him I would like him not to play video games while he's watching the kids anymore because he can't seem to pay attention to them when he does. He got even more mad, yelled, "Fine," and grabbed his Xbox from the garage and slammed it on the kitchen counter. I told him not to start with me, and he yelled at me that he can never do anything right and can't take care of his kids good enough for me and slammed the garage door. This happened about 4 hours ago, and he still isn't talking to me. So he just darvoed the situation. So this child has been neglected for a bunch of hours. He denies it. He denies it. Then he reverse victim offender. So now he is the victim because she is going in on him and basically lambasting him, even though he literally neglected his child for however long she was neglected. She could have harmed herself. She could have harmed their other child. But instead of him acknowledging that he did something wrong, he has reversed victim. He is now the victim because she has the nerve to actually call him out on it. This man should not be watching their kids. He should not have the title of stay-at-home dad because he's not being a dad. He's not being a good steward of their children. He is being neglectful. People could, like, literally, if something happens to this child, this man needs to go to jail for abuse. Okay. Texas farmer says, your husband is mad he has to be a parent to his children. He is lazy, selfish, and entitled. Of course, a 3-year-old got into something. And next time your child could fall, get into cleaning chemicals, or choke on something. This person at the bottom, yeah, he says, lock them chemicals up, put up a baby gate, and let the poor man play some games. Yeah, this is the reason why not everybody should have access to Wi-Fi. A lot of the times I don't comment on these posts. I just take screenshots. Today I needed to comment. I said, this is abusive behavior. And if you don't get your kids away from this man, they will eventually get hurt. You know he's negligent and you won't do anything. Why? Your kids are more important than saving this relationship, or should be. They're helpless. He's abusive and negligent. That's what I said on the post. We'll see if she responds. She has been pretty active in the post. This person, AEM, says, time for daycare and for him to go back to work. This isn't his thing, and your kids could easily get hurt if he continues his pattern of neglect. She says, we don't do daycare because the cost would be the same as one of our whole salaries, so it doesn't make any sense to pay a stranger to watch our kids when one of us can do it and we still have the same amount of income for the household. That's why we agreed on this before. I also got to stay home with our first for 2 years before we switched. The difference being at a daycare, they would actually be caring for your children. He doesn't care for your children. So that's the difference. That's the reason why he should go to work and basically use his salary to pay for this childcare, because at least your children would be cared for and clean and fed. That's what By the Brook 88 says. She honed in on, so it doesn't make any sense to pay a stranger to watch our kids. And then they said, but a stranger would actually be watching your kids. Epineetha says, I know it works for most people, but I couldn't personally do it. My husband has very high standards, and I would rather us both have 100% faith in our kids really being looked after. I've heard too many horror stories, and the expense is just like an average of $24,000 a year for two. Oh my God. And for all of the things that could go wrong, I'm not playing that. And then By the Brook says, hones in on the I've heard too many horror stories. And they said, unlike the horror stories you wrote here of one day of your husband caring for your kids. And Epineetha says, he's the provider for now and actually cares. He's been nothing but supportive and helpful. You know what? Then why are you chiming in? This person has a husband that is neglectful. It's not the same. It's not a comparison. AEM says, can you switch back? And the OP says, we can. And I've told him if he wants to go back to work instead, I'm fine with that. But my job now has the highest either of us have been paid. So I really don't want to give that part up. And that person says, but he doesn't handle this part very well, right? And the longer he stays out of the workforce, underpaid for years upon years. Lots of good talks ahead of you to plan for your family. You both need to talk and listen. I get that you don't want to squander this time with your family, and you shouldn't, but if he isn't placing importance upon this and treating it like a job, time to figure out if you want to keep this going. You're pulling the wagon and he's sitting in it. Not cool. Not cool at all. Not safe. She's pulling him along, and he's just getting to pick his feet up, kick his feet up, and just be negligent. This is not a person you should want to be in charge of your kids all day. He needs to be fired from this gig. And I'm going to end it there. You guys go ahead and chime in and let me know what you think about this one. Don't forget to like, comment, and share. So this woman posted this in the BurbNBougie subreddit. She says, men treat women's anger as if it is a joke. She said, I recently started at a new job, and one of my coworkers made the assumption that I'm a party girl. I told him he was incorrect, laughed it off as a no, I'd miss my cat too much. It's not an uncommon assumption, and I've never been offended. Well, for some reason, he decided I was lying and actually did party a lot. Now, this man that I barely know will yell across the foyer every Friday as we are leaving that I need to behave myself over the weekend. He always laughs, and when I, of course, look angry and offended because why the hell would he think he can tell me to behave, it makes the joke even more funny. This is just one recent example, but it is rather common for my anger to always be seen as a joke. It drives me insane that nothing I can do will make someone think I'm serious or they should stop. Outside of looking confused or acting stupid, that all that removes their fun. It just reminds me that I will always be too non-threatening and have too little power for my wants to be of any consequences. I really don't know what to do in this instance when you're the butt of the joke. What do? You're at work. Let's have this conversation and brainstorm what this young lady could do or should do, because I don't really know. But this is one of the reasons why I hate these jokes or pranks, because it makes you the butt of the joke and they crack up and they just like they have so much fun with it. And this is just not cool. But If she needs this money, it's not like she's in a relationship and can just break up with the person. She is at a new job. She doesn't want to rock the boat too much. HR is not always on people's sides. She needs to like do what she needs to do to maintain her composure and keep her money coming in. So let's not just act. Let's not just act like people have the luxury of just storming out of a job and quitting. Let's not assume that. I know some people leave, but some people actually need their jobs. So let's come up with some solutions that are actually that could actually help. Okay, for the comments. Back to the user says, this is probably an HR reportable violation thing, but if it's not, do this. Yell back, good luck at your recovery group meetings this weekend, or maybe others have some better, safer, cringe-inducing comebacks. How about, I will, but you'll never really know because no one would invite you. I don't know. Okay, so that could be doable, but I do like this idea of let's give her some snapbacks. Let's give her some clapbacks. Let's do that. JYQE says, I was thinking it should be an HR thing as well, to be honest, because he is implying that OP is I guess, a lady of the night or making judgments that assume she has some kind of alcoholic lifestyle. And this is creating a hostile working environment. Definitely, if there's an HR, not every workplace has one. Maybe whoever is his superior, if not. JYQE says, in my opinion, superiors don't really help. HR doesn't really help much either, but if they're good at their jobs, they'll at least separate the two employees. Crunchy Tea Type says, that is very sad to hear. I know that back in the day, the woman who was being harassed, this is actual harassment as well as humiliation and workplace abuse, in my opinion, was often simply fired and her abuser, nothing happened, or he was moved or promoted. I truly hope it's not still that bad, but it would not shock me if it is. And then the OP chimes in, I am unsure if HR could even do anything as this is out of work hours and not in the workplace. Our office shares a building with other businesses, so the foyer is public. Crunchy Tea Time says, you should do what feels best and safest for you overall. The diary is very important. It gives you later options. Cozy Sweatsuit says, this is sure exual for him. Nearest Coven says, I totally understand your frustration. I've noticed this with men catcalling me. I can unfortunately be a bit of a hothead at times, and it seems to amuse them when I snap back or yell at them. It sucks that we can't express ourselves without the potential threat of violence or not being taken seriously. The best thing I can suggest is gray rocking. When they make inappropriate jokes or catcalls, I just stare right back at them with a completely expressionless face and don't say anything. It seems to make them uncomfortable and they F off. I agree that you should make a record of it each time he does it for HR. Best wishes to you and screw that guy. Crunchy Tea Time says it's totally a domination move and humiliation move when men catcall or yell embarrassing things like that. They're saying they can do whatever they want with all the attendant implications of that. The OP says, this was the first time I ever had the confidence to be angry and to not laugh out of pure discomfort. This is not the first time a random coworker asked me to behave. Insane. And the fact that me directly saying stop was a greater encouragement than laughing at the joke just made me feel like a chihuahua. No matter how rightful my anger is, I will always be cute and non-threatening. Affectionate Film says, an American friend of mine, I'm English, would always turn directly to the man making the comment and say, excuse me, this made the man think he had to repeat the pretend banter and look foolish or shut up. Always seemed to work, so I adopted it too. All right, y'all, this is the chance for you guys to chime in and let her know what you think she should do. Should she clap back? Should she gray rock? Chime in, let me know. Don't forget to like, comment, and share. This post has very sensitive topics coming. We're talking about gRape and unaliving of women. So this was posted in the BurbNBougie subreddit. She says, the female Indian doctor's passing showed how wretched men can be. She says, there was a post in a different sub, which is about Asian identity, culture, socialization, and masculinity. Most users are men, so yeah, which is now deleted. The post was a screenshot of a tweet by an Indian man, let's call him Mr. X, who complained online of how Indian feminists were always getting validation from the West for simply shitting on Indian men. Apparently, the woman he complained about was an Indian feminist, according to him, who likely spoke out about the doctor's death or misogyny in India. Misogyny in India in general. Many non Indian men commented in the post that India does have a huge femicide or rape issues. So it's just a reality that Mr. X needs to recognize. I even commented and said something similar and added that if he does not want India to have a bad image in the international community, him and other Indian men need to join the protest and change the law to punish the ex offenders properly. However, many Indian men came in and said things like, oh, well, countries have higher numbers of rape per thousand people than India, or why do you say that India has the highest rape rate? Show me the stats. These fools didn't even read my comment saying that India has a rampant rape issue. I never commented that it has the highest rate. I also said the Indian doctor's death getting international coverage is not a bad thing, since, regardless of the country, any international headlines will make a government make proper changes more swiftly. And of course, I was met with emotional comments again. That post showed how much men don't care about women. They claim that only some men are bad. But in my book, any man who is more concerned about his image over the women who are actually getting raped or murdered is awful too. It is baked into the cake to blame the women, and now they have to blame everybody that is talking about this. So we're going to keep talking about this. I'm thankful for Black Lilith saying this. She says, Momita Dabneth, let's say her name. Yes, let's say her name. Momita Dabneth, let's say her name. She says, the stats are something like a woman is raped every 20 minutes in India. While rape is everywhere, here is my issue. Grape is one thing, even gang rape is another, but effing Christ, the stories that come from India is not just grape, it's torture. It's not simply enough to grape a woman or a girl. The depravity and violence is something that I have a hard time even conceiving. I'm not trying to say some grape is worse than other grape, but India has more than a grape problem, more than a femicide problem. Momita had her legs spread so violently that her pelvis cracked. They bit her fingernails off, 113 bite marks. They covered her mouth so forcefully it broke her neck bones. She was vaginally mutilated. The list goes on. What sickness drives this kind of violence to women? How is it even possible for a human being to enjoy inflicting this kind of suffering? The grape aspect of this violence isn't even sexual, I believe, but is simply to torture and dehumanize while the person suffers unimaginable physical pain. She says, so yes, maybe other countries have high instances of rape as well, but their issue is something entirely different. I can't even conceive of what happened there. And every story that comes out of India is like that. And then Comprehensive Dog says, you are absolutely right. The violence with which men gang rape and unalive women on a regular basis equals so often that the sickening details makes internal news more than once a century is absolutely appalling. It's a disgrace for the human race that Indian men do that and let it happen. So an Indian man made his way to this post and started spamming. So Lone Guy says, I'm not a member of this sub. The post just came to my feed, so I'm commenting. See, men in India are going for protests too, but when you see that you're being stereotyped for something you didn't do, obviously that would make you feel bad, especially when you're supporting the ones who are spreading hate against you, the India feminists. And then the OP says, I hope you become your username and leave women alone. But this is not the worst part. Hold on. Like I said, he was spamming. Maybe you don't think, but others do. A few of the femcels blame a certain group or community to cope, and the world needs someone to blame. And blaming Browns are the easiest. It's observation of current culture in India. Okay, I'm not a racist, but listen up. You know that's how the whites say that robbery is a cultural thing for blacks. So it's true. No, right. It's the same thing. And then he says, so you mean racism is justified? There will always be some bad people in every race, but why would you generalize? If you're talking about crime rate, then you know which rate does the most crimes in the US. And then he's like, I'm not talking about that. Just look at Twitter and Reddit posts, which has the keyword Indian men. The comments would be full of racism. That's what I'm complaining about. Um, oh, at the bottom, it says, cope harder. This is his post history. This is just a snapshot of his post history. He says, it's you who's thinking I'm using it as a derogatory term. If it's all men, that means that includes your father too. He says, nowadays, even blacks have started being racist too. He says, cope harder, but he said that in No Stupid Questions subreddit. He's spamming other people's posts. He says, yeah, I get it, but who was covering up? The government, me. And then he's talking about cover up. Where you're again generalizing. So he's trying to shift. He's deflecting, shifting blame. This in the middle. I thought you would speak about something more logical. Anyways, just check the number of fake gRape cases in India. Then the misandry exists. Like, I'm a teen and I never did any like this in my life, but still people like you are generalizing the whole race of mine. So he is a teen. This is a teenager. These people, the women in this country are going to have such a hard time. It's already terrible, but this boy, I didn't realize that he was a teen till just now. Already talking about misandry and using red pill talking points and deflection and all of that. Just to let you know, I did ban this user. I'm not going to let a man jump into my post and spam and troll like that. That's not how I do things. But he did respond back to his ban saying, I'm not a troll, but okay, y'all didn't even read the full thread. This sub is an echo chamber with no differing opinions. I don't need differing opinions. That's just red pill talking points and tried to blame everything else on the situation that women are facing in India. I don't need those talking points. He can go spam somewhere else. He's not welcome in my sub. All right, join the conversation. Let me know what you think. Don't forget to like, comment, and share.